Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I've got 15 articles for you here this morning, and we'll just jump right on into them. All these URLs, of course, are in the description of the video in case you want to look something up on them. But first one here is off of Breitbart. It says U.S. military warns space is now a war-fighting domain. Air Force considers maintaining space superiority one of its core missions. High-ranking American military officials told lawmakers Wednesday, warning that space is now a war-fighting domain. In jointly writing testimony submitted to the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee on Strategic Forces Wednesday, top officials in charge of America's military space program told lawmakers, for decades, the United States has enjoyed unimpeded freedom of action in space. This benign allowed us to operate satellites for intelligence collection, missile warning, weather monitoring, communications, and precision positioning, navigation, and timing in support of all military operations for the services, or for all of the services, without thinking about how to protect these systems. No longer exists. Space will be contested in any conflict. Clearly, freedom to operate in space is not guaranteed. In fact, space is now a warfighting domain, similar to the more familiar air, land, and maritime domains our men and women are fighting in today. We must ensure the reliability of our current systems, and we must modernize. We'll focus on our ability to deter potential adversaries and to fight in a contested, degraded, and operational limited environment should deterrence fail. It came from Heather Wilson, Secretary of the U.S. Air Force, General David Goldfein, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General John Raymond, Commander of U.S. Air Force Space Command, and Lieutenant General Samuel Greaves, Commander of the U.S. Air Force Command Space and Missile Systems Center. Our potential adversaries understand the advantage we derive from space and our view of reliance on space as a vulnerability they can exploit, they noted. Can offset any U.S. military advantage derived from our space system, continue to pursue capabilities to degrade or destroy them. In its latest World Threat Assessment issued last week, Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats identified Russia and China as America's primary rivals in space. We assess that Russia and China perceive a need to offset any U.S. military advantage derived from military, civil systems and are increasingly considered attacks against satellite system as part of their future warfare doctrine, pointed out the assessment. Both will continue to pursue full-range anti-satellite weapons as a means to reduce U.S. military effectiveness. The global threat of electronic warfare, or EW, attacks against space and in the coming years with both number and types of weapons, adds the DNI. Development will very likely focus on jamming capabilities against dedicated military satellite communications called SATCOM, synthetic aperture radar called SAR, imaging satellites, and enhanced capabilities against global navigation satellite systems called GNSS, such as the U.S. Global Positioning System, or the GPS. Blending of EW and other cyber attack capabilities will likely expand in pursuit of sophisticated means to deny and degrade information networks. Russia and China will likely complete development of ASAT weapons in the next few years, states DNI. Coats warns Russia is developing an airborne laser weapon for use against U.S. satellites. They continue to conduct sophisticated on-orbit satellite activities such as rendezvous and proximity operations, at least some of which are likely intended to test dual-use technologies with inherent counter-space functionality. Maintenance of space programs alone, the Pentagon has requested nearly $1 billion for fiscal year 2017, which is October 1st of 2016 through September 30th of 2017. That does not include hundreds of millions for procurement as well as research and development programs. Space superiority freedom from attack and freedom to maneuver and attack U.S. Air Force mission. It is not just operationally important, it is also a strategic imperative for protecting U.S. and throughout a crisis or conflict, the high-ranking military official told senators. It is the lead service for space. Our space system, including our ground elements, could be the first system attacked in a high-end fight. We are committed to gaining full understanding of space operations in a contested environment, they continued. The military acknowledges its space policy is facing some challenges. In 2017, your Air Force will finalize our family of space warfighting concepts of operations, identify our capability gaps, continue to posture transition to increase deterrence, and ensure our forces can fight and win a conflict that either starts or extends into space, and strengthen our support to combatant commanders, testified the officials. That the decisive advantage that space brings to military operations has been the deciding factor in every military operation conducted in recent years. Committed to leading the space enterprise, joint warfighters can fight and win in every domain, they added. The next article, thesun.co.uk, and it says, Kim shocking new satellite photos show North Korea's nuclear missiles are more powerful than the world feared and could soon hit the U.S. And could soon have long-range weapons capable of reaching Alaska and Hawaii. Satellite images of Kim Jong-un's main missile test site reveal North Korea's weapons are far more powerful than first thought. Fears are mounting that Kim could soon have long-range weapons capable of reaching Alaska and Hawaii after the photos showed increasingly large scorch marks from the missiles. And they've got pictures in this one if you want to pull it up and see it. Analysis of North Korean test sites using images from the planet reveal the regime has gradually been building up its size of missiles. Scorch marks and ground damage shown in the photos suggest the rockets must be much larger than previously thought. It is believed that North Korea may now be testing the Hwasong-12 rocket capable of flying 4,500 miles. That would put the U.S. military base at Guam, Hawaii, and Alaska within range, reports Quartz.com. North Korean missiles are designed to take off from mobile launchers in order to hide developments from enemies and spies. But the detailed satellite images are so precise that a private plane believed to whiz Kim around the country to watch missile tests is clearly visible. The plane was photographed on the runway before a recent test. Such detailed images and analysis of the scorch marks were made possible because the pictures were captured on consecutive days around the test. Experts are not convinced a series of failed tests means the program is failing. Joseph S. Bermudez, Jr., analyst at a U.S. firm, All Source Analyst, told Wall Street Journal, it's not an individual test or two individual tests, it's that they're approaching their missile development in a very pragmatic way. What they're doing is exactly right. They are testing, and they are testing often. This is the way you really learn how to develop a ballistic missile, and that's what worries me. Vladimir Putin yesterday waded into the North Korean crisis and told Donald Trump, stop bullying Kim. Russia's Iron Man leader warned the intimidation of Kim Jong-un's regime must end. He said, we must stop intimidating North Korea and find peaceful solution to this problem. But Vlad also had words of warning for the wannabe nuclear state, telling Kim he must not build his nuclear arsenal within 60 miles of Russia's far eastern coast on Saturday night. A meeting on his state visit to China, Putin added, we are categorically against the expansion of the club of nuclear powers. We consider the missile test counterproductive, harmful, and dangerous. Despot Kim is trying to fit nuclear warhead missiles, the largest of which it is feared could hit the U.S. Following the latest test, a White House statement said with the missile impacting so close to Russian soil, in fact, closer to Russia than to Japan, the president cannot imagine that Russia is pleased. Been a flagrant menace for far too long. South Korea and Japan have been watching this situation closely with us. The U.S. maintains our ironclad commitment to stand with our allies in the face of the serious threat posed by North Korea. Let this latest provocation serve as a call for all nations to implement far stronger sanctions against North Korea. Next article, this is off of Liberty Headlines. And let's just get into it. You know, it's like there's an elephant in the middle of the room and everybody's ignoring it. But man, oh man, the news out of Washington yesterday just would curl your hair. Holy smoke. I've got a whole list of articles here on this. Congressional Republicans now discussing impeachment. This article originally came from The Hill, and it says, Republicans are beginning to talk of the possibility that President Trump could face impeachment after reports that he pressed ousted FBI Director James Comey to end an investigation of former National Security Advisor. While Republicans are choosing their words carefully, the fact that impeachment is even being mentioned is notable in Washington's polarized political environment. Representative Justin Amash, Republican of Michigan, on Wednesday said if the reports about Trump's pressure on Comey are true, it would merit impeachment. Amash spoke a day after the New York Times on Tuesday reported that Trump tried to pressure Comey to stop investigating Flynn. According to a memo written by Comey after the February meeting, the president told Comey, I hope you can let this go. Asked by The Hill if details of the memo would merit impeachment if they were true, Amash replied, yes. But everybody gets fair trial in this country. Amash added that as he left a House GOP conference meeting. Asked by another reporter whether he trusted Comey's word over Trump's, Amash said, I think it's pretty clear I have more confidence in Director Comey. Amash is one of only two House Republicans co-sponsor a Democratic bill to establish an independent commission to investigate Russia's role in the election. Representative Walter Jones, Republican of North Carolina, has also endorsed the legislation. Jones suggested in an interview with The Hill on Wednesday that the allegations in the Comey memo could lead to a push for impeachment proceedings. Next article is off of BizPac Review. Even liberal Dennis Kucinich admits the politicized deep state is trying to take down President Trump. Even liberal former Representative Dennis Kucinich has to admit the existence of the so-called deep state, which is placing the government under attack from within. The Ohio Democrat originally made that assessment in February when conversations that then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn had with Russia Ambassador Sergei Kislyak were leaked to the press. Kucinich reiterated that belief Wednesday on Fox News Channel's Hannity. Well, you have politicization of agencies that is resulting in leaks from anonymous unknown people and the intention to take down a president, he told Fox News' Sean Hannity. This is very dangerous to America. It's a threat to our republic. It constitutes a clear and present danger to our way of life, he continued. We have to be asking, what is the motive of these people? Who's putting these leaks out? Why isn't somebody coming forward to make that charge and put their name and their reputation behind it instead of attacking through the media and not substantiating their position, he asked. Kucinich told Hannity that it was time to set party politics because our first allegiance is to our country. The next article is off of BizPac Review. It says, Dems warned to be careful what you wish for after labeling Robert Mueller a stroke. Democrats celebrating the announcement of Robert Mueller to lead the Russia probe may end up getting more than they bargained for. After months of demanding an independent investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the U.S. election, Democratic lawmakers praised the Justice Department choice a director appointed just 8 days after President Trump fired James Comey as FBI chief. I'm surprised and thrilled, and I can't think of anybody with more integrity and who will have as much credibility within the FBI as Bob Mueller, Connecticut Democrat Representative Jim Himes, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, said, according to The Hill. This is a masterstroke, I think, by the deputy attorney, he continued. But Himes wasn't alone in his assessment. 72-year-old Vietnam veteran and Bronze Star recipient served for 12 years as FBI director under the administration former President George W. Bush and Obama. He has, as Fox News host Tucker Carlson pointed out, nothing to prove, having earned a reputation for rectitude. Newt Gingrich put out a tweet that says Robert Mueller is the superb choice to be special counsel. His reputation is impeccable for honesty and integrity. Media should now calm down. In fact, the nonpartisan straight shooter may create more of a challenge for the Democrats, who were poised to petition for an independent outside commission to investigate the alleged Trump-Russia ties. Carlson noted that the probe could extend beyond its original timeline and could uncover more than anyone had anticipated. And tweeted out, wait till he gets to the DNC server, Huma and Hillary emails. Can't wait. Careful what you wish for, libtards. Representative Jason Chavez agreed with his colleagues that Mueller is as good as it gets in finding an independent special counsel. It doesn't get any better than Robert Mueller, the House Oversight Chairman told Fox Carlson on Wednesday. Chavez tweeted out, Mueller is a great selection, impeccable credentials, should be widely accepted. But while he concurs that Mueller is a great pick, Chavez argued that there wasn't even a need for special investigator, as he has not seen any evidence of a crime being committed. Conservative Firebrand Ann Coulter thought Mueller's appointment should actually be causing some noted Democrats to lose sleep. She tweeted out, people who have most to worry about with appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller, John Podesta and Bill Clinton. Twitter users joined in with lawmakers hailing the choice of Mueller to lead the Russian probe, but many echoed the warning that Democrats may rue the day that they clamored for a special counsel. One tweet says, Mueller will also find nothing, and the Dems will find out Mueller is someone they cannot buy. Congratulations, you have an honest man. Another one tweets out, a man of integrity for sure. Another tweet says, Democrats are going to be flinging their own poop at television screens when he announces no evidence of collusion, because there is none. Another one says, question is now, if Mueller comes back with little or nothing damning of Trump, will Democrats accept it and move on and start cooperating? Now, that's a good question. Another one says, if you agree Robert Mueller as Justice Department special counsel is genius, especially when this turns out on Democrats, retweet. Maybe Dems will shut up. Another one says, are you all going to be singing this song when Mueller's investigation finds there is no Russian collusion? Another one says, this man is a hero. He will bring out the truth, and God will help any leakers he finds. He upholds the law and does not play. Another one says, can't wait to see Robert Mueller clear all Trump associates and then have the Democrats accuse him of being a Russian agent too. It says, oh, it's all coming out. It's going to bite them in the rear. The next article is off of Western Journalism. It says, Pence forms PAC as Trump administration weathers the storm. This is the first time a sitting vice president has Vice President Mike Pence has set up a new political action committee on Wednesday as Trump administration weathers the storm of multiple controversies. The Great America Committee leadership PAC gives the vice president a vehicle to raise funds to support Republican candidates or support political activities, such as traveling on Air Force Two to GOP fundraisers around the country. This is the first time a sitting vice president has formed such a separate political arm. Former administration officials have used either party or campaign funds to cover travel costs, NBC News reports. Past presidential candidates include Senators Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. Both formed leadership PACs before their presidential bids in 2016. Don't read into 2020 as anything other than his running for re-election as vice president in 2020 and supporting other candidates, the source told NBC News. PAC allows Pence to remain engaged with his supporters dating back to his time as a six-term member of Congress, then governor of Indiana, and finally as vice president candidate last year. Two of his top aides from the vice presidential run, Nice Ayers and Marty Obst, will be heading the Great America Committee. The vice president is playing a leading role in passing legislation on the Hill, Ayers told Bloomberg. He wants to support House and Senate members who are helping pass the president's agenda. Ayers said planning for the PAC began in December. In addition to supporting Republican candidates, it will enable Pence to engage in political activities without draining funds from Trump's presidential campaign, war chest, or the Republican Party. The leadership PAC can accept individual donations up to $5,000. Multiple media outlets could not help noting the formation of the PAC comes as Trump administration grapples with the political fallout after the firing of FBI Director James Comey and the naming of a special prosecutor to investigate Russia efforts to influence the 2016 presidential race. Politico reports that so-called never-Trumpers like conservative commentator Eric Erickson have reemerged to argue there is no need to back Trump with Mike Pence in the wings. Others contend that if liberals and others opposed to Trump presidency should somehow succeed in orchestrating its demise, their guns would quickly turn on Pence. Kyle Smith argues in a National Review piece on Wednesday entitled "Get Ready for the Pillaring of Pence." If Trump leaves office prematurely for any reason, President Pence will immediately be denounced as far worse. In fact, it would happen before he even took office. In fact, it's already happening. Washington Post columnist Richard Cohen laid the groundwork earlier this week in his op-ed, "Trump doesn't embody what's wrong with Washington, Pence does." Cohen hammers Pence, calling him a bobblehead who stands near Trump, nodding his agreement with what the president does. An article on liberal Bill Moyer's site titled "Enabling a Dangerous President," Pence was there, labeled the president a liar and guilty of engaging in cover-ups. The implication and the objective is clear. If Trump goes down, Pence should go with him. The next article is off of eutimes.net. And the hamster's running as fast as he can go. White House head of personnel to purge Trump supporters from staff on May the 22nd. And there's an editor's note in the beginning of this. It says this article explains why the Trump administration is dealing with so many leakers inside the White House. Johnny DiStefano, a GOP elite loyalist who never vocally supported Trump, was somehow given the most important job in a presidential transition. As director of presidential personnel, DiStefano decides who will work in the Trump administration. DiStefano has been using his power to undermine Trump in several ways. DiStefano, head of personnel and policy for President Donald Trump, has blocked Trump supporters from the White House. 23 people with direct knowledge of him and personnel have reported to me. Over 800 Trump supporters told positions in Schedule C federal employees these positions are temporary and expire after 120 days. Fewer than 15% of Trump's temporary appointees, Schedule C, have been given permanent positions. Their terms are coming up, and they are being sent home. The source told this reporter, "I was told that I have a permanent position, moved to that position, was given a new email address, but my paperwork says I am still on 120 appointment that expires on the 20th. Half of the original Trump supporters here are in the same boat as me. The other half were told that they would not be reappointed. So that 15% number, hopefully not in my case, may be even lower. Even pro-Trump interns are being blocked as another source told me. Hey, Mike, I was a Trump field rep in a swing state which Trump narrowly carried. I wrote recommendations for several college kids for the White House internship. I guess I should have written that they were never Trumpers as opposed to volunteers from before the primary. No one from the White House intern department called me as a reference. Trump has received well-justified criticism about being short-staffed. John Fund of Fox News reported that Trump had only 20% of the staff Bill Clinton had. Gestapo defended his inaction by claiming it takes time to hire the best people. Surely Silicon Valley billionaire Pete Thiel would know something about how to hire the best people, yet multiple sources confirm Thiel has been completely shut out by Gestapo. Thiel's team reportedly will be making a visit to D.C. this Friday to discuss personnel decisions, although the meeting may have been rescheduled in light of President Trump's planned overseas trip to Saudi Arabia, a trip whose existence was first reported by Cernovich Media. Gestapo has brought in rapid never-Trumpers like Brian Hook and homophobe Scott Garrett. Alex Pfeiffer of the Daily Caller exclusively reported back in March. Brian Hook, a Trump critic and a former Bush administration official, is currently serving as the State Department Director of Policy Planning, the Daily Caller has learned. Foreign Policy's John Hudson observed that Hook despised Trump. My wife said never, Hook told Politico in May. Even if you say you support him as a nominee, you go down the list of positions and you see you disagree with everyone. Since taking over a state, Brian Hook has pulled the security clearance of several of Trump's most loyal supporters, putting America's national security at risk. Gestapo has also been coordinating with H.R. McMaster to make the NSC Democrat again. McMaster has said we need to professionalize the NSC, and that means bringing in more Democrats. Scott Garrett, a never-Trumper who hates gays, is also slated to take a high-level position at the Export-Import Bank. Scott Garrett called Trump vile and said he should resign in disgrace. If the Schedule C positions are allowed to expire later this month, the Trump revolution is over. What can you do to stop the May massacre of Trump's supporters? And the next article is on BizPac Review. This is war, damn it, so get to war, Lou Dobbs rips Trump's flat-footed and failing communications team. Fox Business Network host Lou Dobbs blasted President Trump's communications team, especially in light of the mainstream media's obsession with finding fault with him and his administration at every turn. In Dobbs' commentary Tuesday, he accused Trump's communications team of delivering conflicted messages, leading to problems with reporting. He accused Trump staffers of behaving as though they're in the George W. Bush White House instead of the barrage-ridden Trump administration. Our president is under constant barrage from all quarters by the vapid but still venomous Dems on Capitol Hill, the left-wing national media, the toxic GOP elites, and much of much of orthodoxy, who hate almost as much as the left, and the deep state denizens that include some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in this nation, he said. The president deserves the full commitment of his White House staff, who should be fighting as hard as the president for him and his agenda and this country. But he said Trump isn't getting it. The all-too-civil, low-energy Trump White House communications team remains flat-footed and failing, Dobbs said. They need to change that. He accused his staff of lacking the skills necessary to do its job. They aren't obviously fighters. They obviously aren't street smart, and they haven't been strategic, and they must change all of that, he told his viewers. They must become all of that and much more, because the determined forces of evil that surround this White House are trying to destroy the Trump presidency and will settle, it appears, for nothing less. This is war, damn it, so get to war. Dobbs concluded with a quote from ancient Chinese tactician Sun Tzu's, "Know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Begin, please." He implored the White House staff. The next article is off of the Gateway Pundit. The real scandal. WAPO source leaked classified info that President Trump wasn't even briefed on. Yesterday, WAPO came out with a hit piece claiming that Trump shared classified intel with Russians last week in a meeting that was closed off to the U.S. press. The real scandal is that WAPO claimed in their article that President Trump disclosed the city of where the intelligence was gathered to the Russians, but the president was never even briefed on this information. High up in the intelligence community leaked this information to WAPO, and WAPO overplayed their hand by reporting on too much information, narrowing down who he is. Via Fox News states, the Post claims it did not reveal all the details of the disclosures from its source because U.S. officials said this would jeopardize important intelligence capabilities. Yes, there's a scandal here. It concerns former and current U.S. officials leaking classified information to the press to undermine a U.S. president. The real scandal here concerns the current and former U.S. officials who spoke to the Washington Post to generate this story. We don't know if these sources lied, misrepresented what went on in the Trump meeting with the Russians, or were second guessing what Trump told them. We do know that current U.S. officials, possibly with the NSC and intelligence agencies, originated this story and revealed highly classified intelligence to the Post as part of their leaks. They were joined by former U.S. government officials who I assume worked for the CIA and the Obama NSC. These people committed felonies. They must be identified and prosecuted. Fox News points out that the Obama White House also revealed sensitive intelligence, and of course, the media showed zero outrage. But keep in mind, U.S. officials unfamiliar with intelligence sometimes make such mistakes. For example, in 2014, the Obama White House accidentally revealed the name of the CIA station chief in Afghanistan to the press. The Obama White House also reportedly revealed sensitive intelligence to the media concerning the Stuxnet virus, I think that's how it's pronounced, to sabotage Iran's nuclear program, and details of the Osama bin Laden raid. Where was the outrage by the mainstream media and the congressional Democrats over these leaks? Senator Dianne Feinstein accidentally leaked classified sensitive information on drone strikes in 2009 during a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing. Nothing happened to her. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster was asked in a press briefing why Trump gave away the city where the information originated. McMaster said that President Trump didn't even have this information because he wasn't briefed on it. President Trump is briefed on a need-to-know basis. Excerpt from WAPO's hit piece claiming Trump gave away the city where the intelligence partner detected the threat. Says, Trump went to discuss aspects of the threat that the United States learned only through the espionage capabilities of a key partner. He did not reveal the specific intelligence gathering method, but he described how the Islamic State was pursuing elements of a specific plot and how much harm such an attack could cause under varying circumstances. Most alarming, officials said Trump revealed the city in the Islamic State territory where the U.S. intelligence partner detected the threat. The Post is withholding most plot details, including the name of the city, at the urging of officials who warned that revealing them would jeopardize important intelligence capabilities. McMaster is saying the president didn't even know where this information come from. It looks like WAPO overplayed their hand. And there's some tweets if you want to read those. It says, independent journalist Mike Cernovich weighed in on WAPO's story. Happened with their sources. Cernovich says that WAPO was given information by their sources and gave away too much information, providing someone high up in the intelligence community is leaking them. Cernovich brought up Obama holdover and counterintelligence chief David Loffman as possible leaker. In any event, the leaker must be prosecuted and Trump needs to clean house. Every Obama loyalist needs to be replaced. The next article I have for you is off of Liberty Headlines. It says former DOJ spokesman Comey says Comey is trying to take down Trump. Former FBI Director James Comey may have been building a legal case against President Donald Trump well before the president fired him on May the 9th, according to a former Department of Justice spokesperson. Matthew Miller, who served as the DOJ's director of the Office of Public Affairs under former Attorney General Eric Holder, suggested that Comey may have been building an obstruction of justice case against the president in an interview with the Washington Post. Miller's suggestion carries weight not just because of his extensive background at DOJ and in government, but also because he predicted that Comey left a paper trail with Trump. Miller sent the following tweet 5 days before the New York Times reported that Comey wrote a memo indicating the president had asked him to end an investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. And that tweet says, "One thing I learned at DOJ about Comey, he leaves a protected paper trail whenever he deems something inappropriate happened. Stay tuned." And the article continues by saying, while Miller said it is standard practice for an FBI director to record potentially inappropriate conversations and behavior, Comey could have taken a different approach when speaking with the president. I keep wondering, something in the back of my head keeps saying to me, maybe Comey was actually trying to build an obstruction of justice case against the president here, Miller told WAPO. He explained that when Trump allegedly made the request to end the investigation of Flynn in February, Comey could have immediately warned the president that the conversation was inappropriate and that the request like that should never be made again. But if you're trying to build an obstruction of justice case, you might want the president to keep talking because everything he does is digging deeper legal hole for himself, Miller suggested. He also speculated that Comey may have stayed on instead of resigning as Trump's FBI director in order to dig that hole a little deeper. Comey might have wanted him to keep talking to see what he says, he foisted. Miller agreed with the president that Comey is a showboat, which is another reason he believes Comey may be coming after Trump. You just look at Comey's actions in the Hillary Clinton case, where he made himself the central player when there was no reason for him to be the central player, Miller said. That aside, his entire history shows that he likes to be at the center of attention. Miller claimed that it's still unknown who leaked the Comey memo to the New York Times and admitted that it is unclear what the goal was. But if you were really looking to damage the president, he added, you wouldn't leak the most damaging memo first, so who knows what comes next. Next article is off of Liberty Writers. It's a trap. Top government insider just leaked something horrible Comey did to sabotage Trump. It's really bad. Former DOJ's director of the Office of Public Affairs, Matthew Miller, has stepped forward to say that he believes James Comey is back with a vengeance and his target is President Donald Trump. According to Matthew Miller, James Comey may have been trying to trick Trump into an obstruction of justice since the very beginning. For instance, he said that if Trump really did ask Comey about Flynn at dinner, then Comey could have easily warned Trump his language was inappropriate. Instead of doing that, Miller told the WAPO, but if you're trying to build an obstruction of justice case, you might want the president to keep talking because everything he does is digging a deeper legal hole for himself. Then Comey allegedly wrote down what happened at dinner right afterward. That seems very suspicious. Also, Miller suggested that Comey's history with Hillary Clinton's case also proves this is possibly another one of his kooky schemes. You just look at Comey's actions in the Hillary Clinton case where he made himself the central player when there was no reason for him to be the central player. That aside, his entire history shows that he likes to be at the center of attention. Oh, plus there was Miller's ominous tweet earlier about James Comey seeking his revenge of President Trump, which says, one thing I learned at DOJ about Comey leaves protected paper trail whenever he deems something inappropriate happened. Stay tuned. So decide for yourself. All the facts that Mr. Miller pointed to seem to suggest entrapment on the part of James Comey, if true. And the next article is Overpasses for America, and it says, Comey either lied under oath or lied on his memo. Either way, he's a proven liar. Here's the proof. The debate about former FBI Director James Comey's alleged memo about President Donald Trump's attempt to stop the agency investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn showed up on Twitter. A reporter tweeted that Comey denied any interference in the agency's investigation while under oath at a Senate hearing earlier this month. Jack Prosbiek, Washington bureau chief for the rebel media, tweeted about it. And he put out this tweet that says, I guess that's Hirono, it's Hirono, says, so if the Attorney General or senior official at the Department of Justice opposes a specific investigation, can they halt that FBI investigation? And Comey says, in theory, yes. And goes on to say, not in my experience, because it would be a big deal to tell the FBI to stop doing something that without an appropriate purpose. I mean, where oftentimes they give us opinions that we don't see a case there, so you ought to just stop investigating resources in it, or investing resources in it. But I'm talking about a situation where we were told to stop something for a political reason. That would be a very big deal. It's not happened in my experience. And the article goes on, says, although Senator Maxie Hirono, Democrat of Hawaii, didn't specifically ask about Trump in the question she posed to Comey, the inquiry was about whether or not he had experienced having a higher authority stop an FBI investigation. So if the Attorney General or senior official at the Department of Justice opposes a specific investigation, can they halt that FBI investigation, she asked. And he says, in theory, yes. And she says, has it happened? And he says, not in my experience. I just read y'all that he said there. Wow. So which story's true? I mean, it's interesting that he did all that, said all that before he was fired. Then he gets fired, and all of a sudden, you know, saying that Trump tried to stop the Flynn investigation. So, wow. The next one here is off BizPac Review. You can draw your own conclusion, but I've drawn mine. It says, if Trump obstruction allegation turns out to be true, here's why Comey himself could land in prison. There you go. If Comey was hoping to score a slice of sweet revenge by releasing details of his conversation with President Trump, it could very well backfire in a big way. And it could possibly score the former FBI director a jail cell. In Fox Business appearance, Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert noted that Comey appears to be confessing to a crime. If the obstruction of justice allegations surrounding Comey memos turn out to be true, I'm amazed that and former prosecutor would be confessing to a crime the way that it appears that he is, Gohmert said. Under the law, anyone who is a lawyer in the Department of Justice who has someone attempt to obstruct justice be immediately reported. He said that under the 18 U.S. Code Section 4, Comey is required by law to report any attempt, including by the President of the United States, to obstruct a federal investigation, referring to Section 4, which would have required him to report any obstruction attempt immediately to the Department of Justice. Gohmert said, if this memo happened a couple of months ago, then it sounds like he has got to report it immediately, and I've heard no evidence that he reported that there was someone trying to obstruct justice. Instead, Comey seems to have waited until it was politically expedient to release the memo contents to the press, which would make it a crime for him, according to Gohmert. Fox News' Greg Jarrett, who is a former attorney, penned an op-ed called Comey's Revenge is a Gun Without Powder, in which he makes the same case. And here's what he had to say. Under the law, Comey is required to immediately inform the Department of Justice of any attempt to obstruct justice by any person, even the President of the United States. Failure to do so would result in criminal charge against Comey, 18 U.S.C. 4 and 28 U.S.C. 1361. He would also, upon sufficient proof, lose his license to practice law. So if Comey believed Trump attempted to obstruct justice, he did comply with the law by reporting it to the DOJ, If not, it calls into question whether the events occurred as the Times reported it. Obstruction requires that, or try it again. Obstruction requires what's called specific intent to interfere with a criminal case. If Comey concluded, however, that Trump's language was vague, ambiguous, or elliptical, then he has no duty under the law to report it because it does not rise to the level of specific intent, thus no crime. There is no evidence Comey ever alerted officials at the Justice Department, as he is duly bound to do. Surely, if he had, that incriminating information would have made its way to the public either by an indictment or, more likely, an investigation that could hardly be kept confidential in the intervening months. Appearing briefly on Tucker Carlson tonight, Wednesday, Jarrett reiterated his case, saying that Comey has put himself in a legal box. The former FBI director can call it an uncomfortable and difficult conversation, but unless he wants to land himself in jail, he'll likely testify that it didn't rise to the level of obstruction. Otherwise, he is looking at criminal charges and time in prison. The next article is off of Breitbart. Tea Party activists say media attacks on President Trump. Oops, it jumped on me. Okay. Media attacks on President Trump and all-out assault on our republic. Tea Party activists across the country tell Breitbart News the mainstream media, with help from deep state bureaucrats, is doing the work of Democratic Party in an effort to undermine the political agenda of Donald Trump, the duly elected president of the United States. This is an all-out assault on our republic by the media, Joe Dugan, executive producer of the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition Convention, tells Breitbart News. And he added, what starts as pathetic partisan pouting when the totally biased press, pundits, and prognosticators failed so miserably to forecast the election results and comprehend how absolutely fed up the American voters truly are with the corruption in the swamp. Now that they have taken it to an even higher level, affecting foreign opinions and possible dangerous violations of our national security by the media, criminal prosecution may be warranted. The whole liberal press and insider leaks thing with President Trump is absurd and disgusting. It is so obvious that the DC swamp rats are working overtime to tarnish this great man. Longtime Montana Tea Party activist Eric Olson tells Breitbart News. The constant drumbeat of leaks and innuendo by the press, including the supposed memo from Comey reported on by the New York Times, suggests a far more sinister problem in our government. Mark Skoda, a longtime Tennessee Tea Party activist and chairman and founder of the America First Federation, tells Breitbart News, adding, first, had Comey indeed believed Trump was attempting to obstruct justice, he should have reported it and directly taken action through the Justice Department. Secondly, as he had not done so, as indicated by colleagues within the FBI who leaked the memo, Comey himself may have committed a crime. Third, he continued leaks out of the White House by existing and former staff reflect a real problem with the deep state, one that can only be dealt with by Trump terminating every political appointee and taking bold actions around his agenda. On March the 4th, Skoda organized a rally in Nashville supporting the president, the largest among dozens of Spirit of America rallies held around the country that day. Tom Zadawiski, executive director of Portage County Tea Party in Ohio, tells Breitbart News, the vast majority of working class Americans on both sides of the political spectrum thought Comey should have been fired long ago for not treating Hillary Clinton the way the FBI would have treated each of us. We understand that it's Comey who committed a crime if he did not report immediately if Trump asked him not to investigate Flynn. We understand that it is the media and the DNC insiders who committed a crime when they disclosed the names of the city where or ISIS informant is located when Trump didn't even have that information, Zawitsky said, adding, this charade in Washington with demand for investigations and even special prosecutors with no evidence, while at the same time ignoring proverbial federal crimes like unmasking U.S. citizens for political reasons and leaking classified information to the media only proves their lack of credibility. So why pay attention? No one believes a word of what the media says or what any Democrat says. It is simply all made up with one goal, and that is to undermine our election process and bring down our federal government. Now, that is a crime we would like to see Congress and the FBI investigating. These same media minions didn't hyperventilate when Obama was caught promising flexibility on a hot mic. They ignored it. One longtime Tea Party activist tells Breitbart News, he went on, Comey is simply a disgruntled former government employee trying to be a hero for his Democrat buddies and most likely looking for a book deal. If he was so concerned about alleged POTUS pressure to stop the investigation, he should have brought it to Congress after dinner. I guess he never shared this little tidbit with his deputy McCabe. He continues to prove the American people he has no credibility. Dan Schultz, an attorney, Tea Party activist, and longtime Arizona Republican Party precinct committeeman, tells Breitbart News, I try not to waste my time on fake news peddled by fake American fake reporters. Conservative Republicans can better use their time and energy helping President Trump achieve his political goals by filling up with their warm bodies the approximately 200,000 vacant Republican Party precinct committeeman positions within the party's governing apparatus. The Tea Party activists had a great deal more to tell Breitbart News about how the media, the Democratic Party, and the deep state bureaucrats are trying to bring down the duly elected president of the United States through means that are clearly undemocratic. The shock of President Trump's election victory by everyday Americans so blindsided the press that they threw any loyalty to truth and long lost standards of journalism out the window. They then resorted to publishing any and all uncorroborated allegations that they deemed could cast the president in an unfavorable light. South Carolina's Dugan says, adding, the lack of respect and even civility towards the President of the United States might be excused if it were from a sworn enemy bent on the destruction of our nation, but it is totally inexcusable, contemptible, and unforgivable from a free press that has some obligation to veracity along with that freedom. Journalism, for the most part, has died in this country, and I fail to see why, going forward, the President has any obligation to even speak to the propaganda machine that has replaced it. I believe President Trump should speak directly to the American people on a regular basis and let them choose whether to believe their own ears or the agenda of someone who happens to voice personal opinions of what the president said. As for myself, I shall turn on the media only to hear our duly elected commander-in-chief and then turn it off to form my own opinions when he's finished. These authors who have the character and honesty to report the truth will continue to hold an audience, while those who try to sell opinions as fact will not. The American press and its progressive allies that have participated in the charade of distortion and deception have lost the trust and credibility of the voting public. As founder of Montana Shrugged and Montana president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, I am worried for America and its founding principles given to us in our Constitution. Every day, false news reports and leaks hound our duly elected President Trump. These distractions keep him from continuing his work on behalf of the citizens of the United States. Montana's Olson tells Breitbart News. This dangerous game by the media needs to end. The people of the United States deserve better, Olson concludes. President Trump needs to go to the people through Twitter and rallies, as well as primetime addresses, and ignore the press. The nation is split, and the left has shown its propensity to use lies, violence, and anarchy to hate will through the election. First generation scholar Soda said, I believe President Trump recognizes this, and he should know we have his back. Comey's firing was long overdue. The Russians didn't hack the election, and the mainstream media is indeed the enemy of the people, Skoda concludes. Oh, man, I'm glad all that's over with. Now, we'll move on to one other article here on another topic. For anybody that has followed the Bundy trials in Oregon and Nevada, this goes back to Oregon. This is off of Oregon Live. It says, Oregon's chief federal judge recuses himself in Marcus Mumford's case. Federal judge from Washington will now decide whether to revoke Utah-based lawyer Marcus Mumford's ability to practice law in federal court in Oregon. Mumford, above, there's a picture of him here, represented Ammon Bundy during the trial last fall in U.S. District Court in Portland. Bundy was acquitted of all charges and remains in custody in Nevada, awaiting trial there stemming from a 2014 standoff with federal agents in Bunkerville. Oregon's chief federal district judge, who initiated a move to prevent Ammon Bundy's lawyer Marcus Mumford from practicing law in any federal court in the state, has recused himself to avoid an appearance of a conflict. In place, he assigned U.S. District Judge John C. Kogenauer, a federal judge from Washington, who previously presided over criminal charges against Mumford, to handle further proceedings. The U.S. District Judge Michael M. Mosman said he was stepping aside in an abundance of caution and to avoid anyone questioning his impartiality, according to an order filed in court. Mumford represented Bundy, one of 7 defendants on trial in Portland last September, for taking over the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in January of 2016. A jury acquitted all of them of conspiracy, weapons, and other charges before the U.S. District Judge Anna J. Brown. In mid-April, Mosman took rare move of seeking to revoke Utah-based lawyers' ability to practice in Oregon federal courts, citing repeated instances of Mumford's yelling at Brown, inappropriate commentary on a witness in the presence of a jury, and his arguing for Bundy's release from jail after the acquittal without a good faith basis to believe that the pre-existing custody order from Nevada wasn't still in effect. Bundy faces trial in Las Vegas in 2014 standoff near his father's ranch. At the end of last fall's trial in Portland, U.S. Marshals tackled Mumford and stunned him with a taser when he repeatedly questioned why Bundy should remain in jail. Mumford was taken into custody and released, charged with failing to follow a federal officer's orders and court signs not to prohibit a federal officer's official work. A day after his arrest, Mumford sent an email to 3 Oregon federal judges, Brown, Mosman, and U.S. District Judge Robert E. Jones, urging the courts to investigate the marshals for contempt. On March the 15th, Kogenauer dismissed the charges against Mumford at the request of a special prosecutor. About a month later came Mosman's move against Mumford. Mumford said Thursday he has a lot of respect for Mosman, but questioned why Mosman would decide not to intervene in a criminal case against Mumford when Mumford asked him in October, yet initiated the revocation against him. Mumford said he intends to vigorously defend himself, calling the move an unwarranted, serious, and stigmatizing sanction. Mumford recently was granted additional time to obtain a full transcript of the Bundy trial to file his answer in the case and receive clarification from Mosman on exactly what allegations he needed to respond to in writing. Attorneys admitted to practice in federal court in Oregon must comply with the state's bar's professional conduct standards and the court's statement of professionalism, Mosman noted. Attorneys must maintain the respect due the court and its judges and act with honesty, care, and decorum required for the fair and efficient administration of justice, Mosman wrote. So that's all I have for you this morning. Whew, what a mess. If I have any breaking news, I'll bring it to you. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to know what's going on. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll stay informed. Have a great day.